Hi there! In today's video, I'm finally starting to work on my ChatWTF ChatGPT clone project again. Because a lot of you have been asking, well, at least 2 of you have been asking, for me to implement saving the messages into a database. So in today's video, we are going to do that. Now, the plan is to use a SQLite database, which I have never used before, but if I'm correct in my understanding of it, it is a file-based database, but it is compatible with SQL. So I should be able to use it directly with PHP's PDO. So if that is in fact the case, then I will use SQLite, because I think it will be easy to install. You can just pull my Git repository and it should work right out of the box. At least that's a hope. But before we do that, there's one thing that I want to fix. And this should take about 1 minute to fix. So if I run this thing, let's cd to PHP, and I will do PHP s localhost 80 30 40 something. And I will open this in the browser. Here we have ChatWTF. Now, I'm not sure if I have my API key. Let's see if I say hello. Yes, everything is working. So one thing that currently bothers me in this current UI is that if I say, write an article about PHP, then when it starts writing, we are not actually scrolling down until it gets to the end of the text. So I want to fix this. So only after we got to the end, we jumped to the bottom. So I want to make it so that it will automatically scroll down unless we scroll up. So let's do that. So I have some to do somewhere here. To do, scroll while tokens are added. So when we run message list scroll top equals message list scroll height, then it will scroll to the bottom. So I will remove this from here, and we will instead do it when we get a new token. So when do we get a new token? Here. So let's say let scrolled equal scrolled to bottom. So we'll save this information before we add the token, because after we add the token, then we might not be scrolled to the bottom anymore. And then if scrolled, then we are going to scroll to the bottom. So we will do this. Now, I'm not sure if I need to create a function. Maybe I can just add this here. That equals that. Then we are scrolled to the bottom. So let's see if that actually works. So if we go back to the browser and we refresh, and let's say write an article about PHP, then now we are going to hopefully write something. And when the scroll bar appears, we are not scrolling down. So what is the problem? Let's debug this. Let's go here and let's go to the console and let's do that. False. We are not scrolled to the bottom. What if I scroll to the bottom and I run this again? We are still not scrolled to the bottom. So what is message list scroll top? And what is message list scroll height? All right. So we actually have to add the height of the element to the scroll top. So if scroll top plus message list dot is it outer height? Sorry, that is that is jQuery. We have to do offset height. Okay, so that is going to be same as the scroll height. So we have to do this instead. So if that is equal to that, so now I will create a function because this is getting too long. So that is what we need to do. So let's create a function scrolled to bottom, and I will add it here. Function scrolled to bottom, and it will return this. And I'm not sure how to format this nicely, at least not like that. So I will leave them on one line. And then I can actually do this, because even though the value will be too big, it will still scroll to the bottom. So let's do that and let's see if it now works. Was that a minute? Maybe that was 10 minutes. So let's say write an article about PHP. And we are writing and we are going down and we are actually scrolling down. But if I scroll up, then we are not scrolling down anymore. Until I go down again, then we go down again. Okay, So that's pretty cool. Now there's one problem as well that I tried to already fix before in a video, but I didn't post the video because I was not able to make it work. And that is that while it is writing new content, we cannot select the text. And I was not able to do that. I almost got it to work, but then ultimately I failed. So if you have any ideas on how to do that, then let me know in the comments or submit a pull request. But now let's create that database. So let's go to our message.php. And currently we are using the sessions, but we will have to convert this into using a database. So what will our database need? Well, we are going to have to save the message role and the content and perhaps some timestamp or something. I'm not sure if that is needed, but at least the role and the content. And then of course we need some ID for the message. So let me first start by going to PHP MyAdmin. Now I'm not sure if I can create a SQLite database with PHP MyAdmin, but if it is in fact SQL compatible, then it should work. So let's create this, ChatWTF, and create. So now we have a database. Now we have to create some sort of table. So let's call this messages. And we are going to have an ID and a role and a message or content. And I guess a timestamp would be nice. So 4 columns. So exactly that. And we are going to set the ID to be an integer. And we are going to make it an auto increment, and it has to be a primary int. And we are going to add a role, and we are going to add a content, and we are going to add a timestamp. Now I think timestamp is a reserved keyword in SQL, so we might not want to use that. It's not really a problem, you can just put it in backticks, but I'm not sure about SQLite if that has some problems. So I'll just call it timestamp. Let's figure it out if we get there. And role, of course, is going to be a variable character. And there's like, I don't know, 24, that might be in fact too much. So we might have in the future some function calls, so it might be actually function. So we have function and we have assistant. Actually, assistant is longer than function, and user. So at least this much we need, which is 9 characters. So let's put it 9 characters then. And the content I will just call text. It's going to be 65,535 characters. I think that is enough. And let's set the timestamp to be a date time. Now there's actually a timestamp and a date time. I'm not quite sure what is the difference, but I will use a date time in this case. Let me know in the comments if I'm doing something wrong. Now we can actually set the default to current timestamp, and perhaps in that case we need to use timestamp, but I usually like to set this manually in PHP because I've had problems with the MySQL server having the wrong time zone. And then if you are not able to change it, then you will have the wrong dates in your database. So I'll just set it to date time, and then I can put whatever date I want. And that really should be it. Now I will not select a collation because I selected already. Okay, I didn't select. I will select a collation for the whole table. And I will use InnoDB, and that really should be it. No, that is not it. We have to save the conversation. So because we want to have different conversations, so let's add one more. Let's add one and let's call it conversation. So this will be the ID of the conversation. And I will set this as an index, because we are going to want to query based on a conversation. So if we're going to have a lot of messages, then it's good to have an index on that column. And let's save this thing. And then we also need the conversations table. So let's create that. And what will these have? We will have an ID and we will have the title. At least those for now. Now we might want to add like user columns in this if we want to have separate users for this thing, but that will be later. So let's call this ID and let's make it an auto increment, and let's do title. And what is the length of a title, maybe 64 characters. And we will leave this blank because we don't want to use them. And I will just select the collation here. And that is good. I will save this. So now we have conversations and we have messages. Now I might want to do that relation thing. So I can go here and I can say that column to display is content. Yes, that is correct. And I will go to internal relationships and I will set the conversation to be from the conversations, the ID. Now, really what we would want to do is set the role to be a number, and then we would have a roles table where we can have different roles, because now we are saving the string assistant or user, and it of course takes some space. So we might do that. And I guess you can use like enums in databases as well, but I have never done that. So we will save this. So what this means, the column to display, well, you will see in a moment if you don't know what it means. And I will do the same thing in the conversations. I'll go to relation view and the title is the one to display. And here we don't have any relationships. So I will save this just in case this is not automatically saved. And now we have a database. So let's update our code so that instead of a session, it will load the messages from a database. So let's go here and let's start with the index.php actually. And down here, we have the chats. So right now we get the chats from the session, but now we want to get them from the database. So let's create a function to do that. So let's say get chats, and let's make it just a function for now. Maybe we will convert it into a class later, but let's start with the simplest thing. And I will also pass in our database, which we of course have to get. And I will create a function for that as well. So instead of session start, well, we might need sessions later, but for now I will remove it and I will say database equals get database. And we will create this function. So let's create some sort of file here, database.php. And let's add here something. Let's make a function get database, which will return a PDO object. And here let's do database equals, I never remember how to initialize the PDO database. So I think it's something like new PDO. And do we just pass in the DSN here, which is something like MySQL : / or just MySQL localhost, something like this. And with the port, which is a default port. I don't remember, I will have to check this. But then we will have the username, which in my case is admin. And my password is also admin, which is not what you should do in production, of course. But this is not production, so I will do that. And I will not pass any options right now. And I will see how this actually works. So DSN, what is DSN? Okay, MySQL : host port DB name. Okay, so I have to do MySQL and host is localhost and DB name equals ChatWTF. And let's just return database. And let's create that get chats function. So get chats with the database. And we are going to do a statement which will be prepare select everything from conversations. And let's do order by ID descending. So the latest one at the top. And since we are not actually preparing any statements here, we can just do query. And we can then say that the chats equals statement fetch, and we will pass in PDO fetch associatively. And in fact, I will do fetch all. And that is basically what I have to do because it will be directly in that format in our loop here. So we are going to have a title and we are going to have an ID. Although the ID we have to get. So what we can actually do is we can do select ID and title, and we can do fetch key pair. So now it will be exactly in the format as we have it in the session. So we actually don't have to change any of this code, only do this. And we are going to require our database. And let's check our website. if we refresh, we shouldn't get anything here. But let's add a conversation here into the conversations table directly. So insert, and let's say this is a test, and let's say this will be at the top. And I will add these, and let's go back here and refresh. And we have number 1 and number 2. So I did something wrong. Wait a minute. Is it really like this? Wait a second. Title. Sorry. This is not the correct. So we have the ID here as the key, and then we have the title. So can we in fact do that? We don't want to do that. So what we will do is we are going to say just fetch ASOC, and we are going to change this into just chat, and we are going to say that the ID equals chat ID. And this should not be a thing anymore. We should always have a title. So let's in fact move both of these up there, and let's go back here and refresh. So now we have the actual conversation titles here. Okay, let's do the chats next. So in our message.php, how are we adding messages? Let's stop the session again, and let's require our database. And I in fact should not be doing this. What am I doing here? I shouldn't be setting settings to database. So let's do that. And since we are now using numeric chat IDs, which we might want to change if you want to move this into production, we can actually just do int val. So we will turn the chat ID into an integer. And the context will be a list of messages from the database. So again, we are going to change this to get messages. And we are going to pass in the chat ID, and we are going to pass in the database. And let's go to our database and let's create that here. Function get messages. And we are going to have the chat ID. Now I might want to do something like this, and this will return an array, and this will be an integer, and we are going to pass in the database. And this will also return an array. And what we will do here is we will do statement equals database prepare. Now we prepare because we want to pass in our chat ID here. Let's do select everything from messages where conversation equals chat ID. Actually, conversation is a reserved keyword as well, but I think we can still use it. And now we are going to do statement execute. And we are going to pass in our chat ID, which will be chat ID. Now, the reason we are, of course, using prepared statements and just not doing this chat ID is that, well, in this case, it's going to be an integer, so nothing could happen. But if someone gets a malicious chat ID in here, they can set a chat ID that's like 0 and then drop all databases or something. So we don't want to do that. So we are going to get the messages from the database, and we are going to return them in the same way. Statement fetch all, PDO fetch ASOC, and that should get our messages. And then we can go back to message.php, and here we are setting messages to nothing, and we are adding the system message. Then we are going through the context, so the old messages, which in fact will have a role and a content. So this is still the same. And then we are going to add the new message to the messages array. And then we are saving this to the session. So we have to add this to our database. So let's make a function add message, and let's add the message. So we will actually take this message, and let's call it message. And we will add this message into the database. And we can remove this one. And let's create add message. And we have to pass in also the chat ID. Message, chat ID, and database. And let's go to the database and create that function. Function add message. And we will have the chat ID, and we will have the message first. So in this case, it will be an array. I will probably create like a message object later, but now it's just an array to keep it simple. So let's do array message. And I'll not call it array because it sounds weird. Because really we should have here like a message, but we don't have a message class right now. And we have the chat ID and we have the PDO database. And this will return Boolean, let's say. And then what we will do is we will again do a statement. We will prepare, insert into messages, and we will insert the role and the content and the conversation and the timestamp. Now I probably need to do this for these ones because they are blue. And we are going to insert values, which will be role, content, and timestamp. Now I'm not actually sure how I can escape these ones. I usually just add like another letter in the end, or something like the role and the timestamp. Now I'm not sure if that matters. I think it's still gonna work, but I don't like it when that happens. And I will put the content as well to keep it consistent. And I'm going to statement execute. And we will send the role, which will be message role. And we will send the content, which will be message content. And we will send the timestamp, which will be date YMDHIS. And I will do this. This way it will be easier to see in the Git history if we add a new thing in the database. And then we will return true. And of course we should do some error handling here. But hey, I write perfectly correct code every time. So there's no way this can fail, except that I did not pass in the conversation. So let's add in the conversation. The conversation. And let's add it here as well. Conversation. And that will be the chat ID. So now we should have a function that can add a new message to a conversation. So let's see where else do we have to add the message. So I'll copy this and let's see. Do we do something with the chats? Okay, here we are just initializing the chats, which we don't have to do. And this part will just merge the new messages into the old chat history. So we don't actually have to do this. And we don't have to do this either. So that's the only place we have to add the message. Except we have to add this message. So this will be the assistant message. And we are going to add that. So we will add this one. So what is this messages array? Do we need this? Yes, this will be passed to ChatGPT. But what are we doing here? We are getting the context, the old message. So that will be empty if we don't have any messages. So I will in fact do this. If we have a system message, then we will add it to the messages and we will in fact add it directly to the database. So we will do that. And this will be the system message. And this will be system message. But we also want to add it to the context. So we add it to the database and we add it to the context. Context equals system message. And we want to do this only if the context is empty. If empty context. So as the first message. And then again, we don't have to use this messages array anymore. So we will just use the context. So we'll say context. And this will be, what is this? This is unnecessary. We don't need this. This is only for creating the temporary context array for the sessions method. So we don't need that crap anymore. And then if we have a new message, then the message will be this, and we will add it to the messages, in fact, to the context. And we will add it to the database. And what else? We are not going to use messages anymore. We are going to use the context. And we will send the message and we will get back the assistant message. And we will add that message to the database. So I think that should work. Get the messages. If there's no messages, we add the system message if we have it. And if we are getting a new message, we will add it to the database. And in fact, we don't have to do this anymore because we are dying here. Because now how it works is we send the message first and then we listen for the response. So we only add the message. I might even do this. How will that look? That will look kind of terrible, so I will not do that. I will do this. And then that should work, I think. So the next step, and I think the last step, is that we have to go to our index.php again, and where we are listing the chat messages, we have to get them actually from the database. But now we already have a function for that. So we can just say get messages, and we pass in the chat ID and we pass in the database. So then we will loop through all of them and we will get it in this exact format, so that should work just fine. Now, one thing we have to do is that we are now passing in a chat ID, but if this is a new chat, then we won't have a chat ID. And now we're getting a unique ID, but that will be alphanumeric. So I will just do this. It will either be the chat ID or it will be null. Now, of course, we have to accept null in our get messages, or we have to add some if statement here. If chat ID is null, then it is an empty array. But I believe that it would be just a simple thing to add it here. Either it is null or that. And if it is null, then we just return an empty array. Now, really, it would work without this because we are trying to select null and it will just return an empty array. But let's do that. Perhaps this is not the best way to do it, but it looks pretty neat, I think. So, shall we try it out? Let's see what happens. If I refresh, I will check the error logs, just in case there is no errors. And if I just say hello, what will happen? There was an error in the request. So we got an error that says argument 2 must be PDO. Okay, get messages. We don't have the database, so let's do that. Let's say that the database is get database. And let's refresh and let's say hello. And we still have an error. What is the error? Invalid parameter number. Okay, so what did I forget? Sorry, I left in my SQL injection here. Chat ID. Let's try again. Hello. Additional parameters are not allowed. Conversation ID timestamp. Okay, so when we send this stuff actually to ChatGPT, we have to remove our extra stuff. So how should we do this? Should we just go to here and we could just filter the messages? So we could do something like messages equals array map, and we will pass in a function, and we will not use arrow function because I need multiple lines. I will say this. Let's take the message and let's return it in the format that ChatGPT API wants. So we will say role will be message role and content will be message content. And we will pass in here the messages. So that should now work. So we are mapping through all of the elements in the array and we will replace them with this. So we'll take the original message and we will return an array that has the key role with the role from the message and the content like this. So now if we go back here and I say hello, I will get a message. Hi there, how can I assist you today? Now actually this is not going to save it in the database, the title, but let me see if I refresh. I have nothing because I'm not actually adding the conversations in there. I should have the messages here. Yes, we have in fact all of our messages here. We have hello and hi there. So first of all, we are not passing in the chat ID for some reason. So we are getting the integer value of chat ID. Where are we passing in chat ID? Here we have the create title, so we have to fix this as well. But I really want to just get the conversation ID right now. That's right, because we are sending null as the chat ID. So once we add a message, we should get back the chat ID if we didn't set it. So let's do this. When we get a new message, if the chat ID is 0, then we will create conversation. And let's give it a title. Let's call it untitled chat. And let's pass in the database. And let's return from this the chat ID. So let's do chat ID is that. Now, in fact, do this if not chat ID, then we do that. So now we create a new conversation. And then when we send a message, we will actually return that new chat ID. So that's how we get the new chat ID. So let's make create conversation. So let's go to our database and let's make function create conversation. And we will get the title and the database. And we will return the chat ID. So we are going to do STMT database prepare insert into conversations. And we will insert the title. Values will be title. And let's do STMT execute. And we are going to pass in the title, which will be the title. And then we are going to return database last insert ID. So then we will get the new ID of the chat conversation. And I might in fact change my get messages to not get a null. I'll just say if there's no chat ID, then we return nothing. In fact, I will remove it from here. We only want to get messages with an ID. So then let's do this. When we are calling get messages, here we should always have a chat ID, but here we will not have a chat ID. So we will just say chat ID, then we do this. Otherwise, nothing. So if we have a chat ID, we get the messages, otherwise it's an empty array. And the chat ID might in fact be just 0. If we don't have a chat ID, then it's 0. Now I want to see if we are actually saving the new chat ID. So that's probably in the JavaScript. So when we send a new message, then we get back the chat ID. So right now we have just a global variable chat ID, which comes from the index.html. Here we have chat ID. And I will change this to int val as well. And it is a number, so I will remove the quotes. So I will have to change this when we get the chat ID. So when we post to message.php, we will get back the chat ID. So I will say chat ID is something. How do we get the response? It is going to come from here. So we have the response. And I never remember how fetch works. So am I getting it somewhere? Response.text. Okay, that is complicated. Can I just do await fetch? But then this has to be async. And then I can await this and let the chat ID be that, since we are just returning that. So chat ID is that. And then we don't have to have this thing here at all. No indentation. We're just going to wait for that. And then we are going to do this. So this is send message and get chat ID. And then we listen for the tokens. I think that will work. Let's see. So let's go to our chat website and let's check the error log. No errors yet. And let's say hello. Okay. Empty is too short. And did we get any messages? We got hello. Did we get any conversations? We did actually get 2 conversations. So why is it too short? What are we sending? Let's first check that we are actually sending the ID properly and saving it. So actually let's take chat ID. It is not a string, it will be a response. So how do I get it? Chat ID.text content response text. What is it? Get text. Text. How do I get it? How do I get the content from await fetch? Response JSON. Await fetch. Await response JSON. So I have to do response text since I'm just returning text. So I do really have to do 2 different things. Await fetch And let's do let data equal, I have data already, let response equal await. I have response already too. Can I have await and then, and then I will get here the response, and then I will return response text. Can I do that? And then I can say chat ID is that. Let's see. Let's ask ChatGPT. Is this valid? Yes. Okay. So it is valid. So that should work. So then we get the chat ID. Let's see if that in fact works. Hello. Too short. Chat ID. Did we send something? Message. What is the return from this? Why can't I see what it's returning? Okay, we are setting the event stream type. So in fact, we should only set that one if we go through from this stage. So let's put it here. And let's try it out. Hello. Now I can send the message for some reason. Showdown is not defined. I got some error when loading those things. Hello. Okay, now it works. And what are we sending now? Response is nothing. Why do we not get a response? Because you should never die with some content, because if you die with a number, it will not do anything. So I have to do this. And in fact, we could return JSON, but let's do it just like this for now. Now if I say hello, now it works. So do we now have a conversation ID here? So we have number 9 as the latest one, and these both belong into number 9. So let's now remove all these old ones. In fact, everything. And conversations. And let's go back here. And why do I have a test in there? I left one in there. So now I have nothing. And I say hello. And it answers me, hello, how can I assist you today? And we got a title, but this is not saved yet. But if I refresh, then I have an untitled chat. If I click it, it will load it from the history. So now it is actually saved in there. Write a joke about PHP. Sure, here's a joke. Why did the PHP developer go broke? Because he forgot to add a $sign before his variable in the invoice calculation. Ha 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 ha. Okay, and if I refresh this, then we still have the messages here. And if I go to new chat, it will make a new chat. And if I click here, it will load the old ones. Okay, so let's make this conversation title saver work. So how do we do that? We will add a new function. Set conversation title. Function set conversation title. And we will set the string of the title, and we will give it the ID of the conversation, chat ID, and we will give it the PDO, the database. And we will do database prepare, and this will be a statement. And we will say that update conversations set title equal to title where ID equals chat ID. And we will limit 1. And let's do that. Statement execute. And we will pass in the chat ID, which will be chat ID, and the title, which will be the title. And that is fine. This will return void. Again, error handling is something you might want to look into, but we are not doing it today. And now that we have this function, we can then call it in the create title file. So we are passing a question and answer to this create title function, and it will just create a title. And then we are saving it in the session here. So what we will do is we will say set conversation title to the title and the chat ID and the database. And we have to include the database. So let's do that here. Let's require database. and let's say that the database is get database, and that should be it. We don't have to do that anymore. And let's convert it to int val, and that should be it. And we just echo the title here. So let's see if that works. So if we now refresh, and if we create a new chat and we say, what is the distance from the Earth to the Moon? It will answer me, and we will get a title here, the Earth Moon something. Distance. Okay, great. And if we refresh our conversations, we will have here the Earth Moon distance, and messages look great as well. And here is what that thing we did with the relationships in the beginning does. So we get a link here, and we can actually see the conversation title if we hover over these. So that's why we set those relationships. So we can click this and we actually get to that conversation. So now it should be basically done. Can I still delete these? I cannot. I have to. Let's select everything that has session. Okay, we have clear chat, which right now remove the context, which we don't have anymore. We don't have a clear chat anymore, so we should actually delete this file. This was in the past when we didn't have the conversations at all, but now we cannot do that anymore, so I will delete clear chat. And I have delete chat, which still uses the session. So let's again convert this to int val, and then let's just call delete chat. Delete chat, and we'll pass in the chat ID and the database. And again, we need the database.php here. So require database.php, and database is get database. And let's create delete chat. So let's go to database and function delete chat. And we will get the integer of the chat ID and the PDO of the database, and we are going to delete it. So let's do statement equals database prepare, and we are going to delete from messages. We have to delete both the conversations and the messages. So delete from messages where conversation equals chat ID, and we have to do statement execute and chat ID equals chat ID, and we are going to do the same thing with the conversations. Delete from conversations where ID is chat ID, and this one I will limit by 1 because there's just one, and that should work, and this returns void. And let's see if we can delete chats. So we have untitled chat here. I want to delete it. Yes, I'm sure I want to delete it. And I will refresh, and it has been deleted. And if we check our database and we go to messages, then we have only these two here, and we have only one conversation. So now we are saving them in a database. So I hope that was useful for those who have been asking for this, and I hope that you enjoyed it as well. Now, I didn't get to SQLite yet, so should I see how I could do that? Let's ask ChatGPT, in fact. How does SQLite work? Okay, we got a lot of information, but really what I want to know is, can I use it with PDO? Yes, you can use it with PDO. Okay, so we just do this. So basically we just say, okay, this is the file that we want to use. And of course, there's no credentials because it's a file. And so, yeah, I think it's compatible with SQL. So how do I create the file? How do I create the database? Choose a database name and location. Connect to the database. Execute. Okay, so here we are actually creating the data. Okay. Can I use PHP MyAdmin? Can I use PHP MyAdmin to create it? I mean, what am I creating? I'm creating the file. No, we cannot use, but I can do this. I can go to ChatWTF and I can export this, and I can make it in SQL format, and I'll do custom, and I will not move the data, only the conversations and the messages structure, and I will do that. And here we have the SQL dump of this, and I will copy this and I will add it here. Let's make a new file, database.sql, and can I then make a file here called install database.php, and I will here just do this. Database equals new PDO, and I'll pass in the SQLite, and I just pass in the file, right? Yes, so I just say database.database or ChatWTF.database, and I'll say if file exists ChatWTF.database, then I will die and I will say error, database already exists, and new line. And then I will just do database query. Can I just do this and file get contents database.sql? Is that going to do it? Wait a minute, what is the difference between exec and query? Let's do exec then, exec. Let's see what this does. So if I now go here and I should have my database, I would do install database.php, could not find driver. Okay, so I have to install. So it wasn't as good as I wanted, but I guess I can do something like apt sudo apt get install PHP SQLite. How do I install it? How do I install SQLite for PHP on Ubuntu? SQLite 3, PHP 7.4 SQLite 3. Okay, let's do that. Sudo apt install PHP SQLite 3. Aha. Yes. Okay, can I now run it? PHP install database. Syntax error. So I think we have some MySQL stuff here. So I will not do any of this set stuff here or this. So that should be the same, hopefully. I don't need this either. And let's try to run it again. Database, okay, so I have it already in there. So I will remove ChatWTF and I will run it. And no such collation sequence, okay. So I will not collate anything, and I will remove this as well. And let's see if that works. To remove ChatWTF and near equals on line 8. Oh, sorry. What did I do wrong? Sorry, it's probably not going to be InnoDB, so I'll remove those, and let's see if we have auto increment. Primary syntax error. Well, that's a bit annoying. What if I just do this? Let's leave this as it is, but let's do database.SQLite. Sorry, what should I call this? SQLite.SQL. And let's do that. And let's remove all these comments. And let's do this. Can you convert this MySQL dump to SQLite? Okay, we did something. Okay, let's see if that actually works. So this is all we need. So let's copy that and put it in here. And let's then remove that and let's run the installer. Sorry, I have to change the file. So this is going to be the database. Let's go here, and this will be SQLite.sql. And let's run this, and now we actually did it. So can we now use that one? Can we copy this and go to our database and set it here? We want to use that and no credentials. And we go here and we refresh, and I have to probably restart my server because I installed some stuff. So let's refresh, and it actually works, except we get some sort of error because we don't get all the no such table conversations. Did it rename these somehow? Sorry, this probably has to be from // because I'm in this stupid PHP folder. So let's do that. Haha! Now it actually seems to work. So let's say hello and too short. Why is it too short? We get an error. Messages has no column named row. Okay, so I think ChatGPT hallucinated something. Okay, so we have message text. Okay, so this should be content. And do they have varchar 9 row? Or is it always, yeah, I mean, it's a file. It doesn't matter what you use. Okay, let's do that and let's do this again. Remove and install. And let's go back and refresh. And I'll say hello. And we still get an error. No column row. What is in ChatWTF.database? Just some crap. Well, this was a bit harder than I expected. MySQL to SQLite. We have a simple Python tool to transfer. Okay, so let's try to do this. Let's pip install that one. And let's do MySQL to SQLite. So we are going to pass in MySQL to SQLite, and the SQLite file will be chatwtf.db, and database name is chatwtf, and user is admin, and password is admin. Sorry, I have to say MySQL password is admin, and that should be it. I just do that and it should work. So if I do this, I have to remove first my ChatWTF and that and run it, and it's done. So I think we actually get our messages now. Yes. Okay, so now it works. So can I now say, how about Mars? The distance from the Earth to Mars varies depending on their position. Okay, and tell a joke. Sure, here's a classic one. Why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything. Okay, so now we're actually using a SQLite database. So I guess I can now commit the database into my Git repository. Is that how it works? So how big is it? It is 929 bytes. Sorry, that's the wrong one. This one, 16 kilobytes. But I will first remove everything from the database. So delete. In fact, I will just do operations and truncate. And I will truncate this one as well. And now I have nothing there. So now I'll remove the ChatWTF and I will do that. So now I should have an empty ChatWTF database there. So it is 16 kilobytes. How do I make a dump from that? SQLite dump. Oh, so there's a command, SQLite 3 some database dump. SQLite sudo apt install SQLite 3. Okay, so now I should be able to use SQLite 3 and do ChatWTF and .dump into SQLite.sql. And if I now open this, then I have my database in here. Great. So now this is very small. How do I then create a database out of? Well, yes, now I can use my command. So I can go to install database, and in fact, it should work now. So if I remove again my chatwtf.database, and then I run php install database.php, I should have the database here. And now if I go back here, I have nothing here, but if I say hello, then I will get the message and it will be saved. And if I refresh, it still works. Yes. So now you can install the SQLite database by just running install database.php. Or if you want to use MySQL, then you can just use the database.sql. And I will rename it to mysql.sql. So then it makes sense. And I will create that directory db, and I will move SQLite and MySQL and install database into db. And I'll remove chatwtf.db and I will go to db and I should create a configuration file. So let's do that. So right now I will just do this. I will define in the getDatabase function settings equals require settings.php, and then I will do settings database and DSN, and then I will do settings database and username or null, and settings database password, and it might be null if we use SQLite. And then I can add these into my settings. I'll just return this. So let's go to settings.sample.php and let's add here a database section. Database, and we will have DSN, which I will set a default here with SQLite /database/ChatWTF.database, and username will be null and password will be null. And these are the database settings. Now, I kind of feel like it would be nice if I would also have the session possibility, because that is simple to install. I thought that SQLite would be as simple as sessions, but it's apparently not, because you have to install SQLite and all this stuff. So perhaps I will do some backwards compatible way later. But right now, this project now requires a database. So let's see if this still works. So I don't have a database yet, so I will have to do PHP install database. Now actually rename this install SQLite. Install database into install SQLite, and I will do install SQLite. And then I will have ChatWTF.database. And now it should just work if I move these into my settings, my actual settings. So I'll put them here, and if I refresh and I say hello, then now it works. And now the data is in the database on my local computer. Great. And let's see if this still works. So if I change here MySQL host equals localhost and DB name equals ChatWTF, then if I refresh, then it should get them from the database, but it does not, because I have to set this to admin and admin. And now it works. And if I say hello, then it will be saved in the actual database. And if I refresh this, then I don't have it here. What went wrong? Aha, something is wrong now. So it created that one, but the previous one didn't work. Why is that? Perhaps I had a chat ID. So I had a chat ID here. I had like number 10 here. So then it loads that one. And then if I say hello, then it will try to save to this chat ID. So it will not actually save it anywhere. It won't create the chat. Okay, so a little bit of bug there, but could we fix that real quick? So we could create like a function here if chat exists, chat ID. So if it doesn't exist, then we create the conversation. And then we can create this function chat exists, and we get the int chat ID and the PDO database, and we return a boolean, and we will just do this, and we will just return a row count, and I will make it a boolean, and I will say prepare select ID from conversations where ID equals chat ID. We don't have to order anything, and we just say statement execute, and we are going to do chat ID equals chat ID, and now it should work. So we have to pass in the database, and let's try it. So now I'm at chat ID 10, which we don't have. Do we have? We have a, wait a minute. We have it because we saved to that one. So what if I put like chat ID 15? We get nothing. But if I say hello, then it will say, hello, how can I assist you? But if I go here, then we actually have conversation 2 here. and we create a new conversation for that, which is untitled chat, which is not really what I want. And the reason for this is that in the index, we are checking if the chat is a new chat. And how we check it is by checking if we don't have the chat ID. So what we could do is if chat ID and not chat exists, chat ID and database, then chat ID is 0. And then we can check this after that. And that's not the best way, but just to quickly make it work. And now if I go to number 16, for example, and I say, hello there, it will then create a title, except it won't. Because not is set if not chat ID, which really tells me that this is a stupid variable, because I could just check that if we don't have chat ID, then it's a new chat. But just to make it work now, let's do that. And I will try another number in case we have that in there now. And I will say hello, and I should get a new thing here. Great. And if I refresh, it will not be here because we don't have this chat. But if I click this one, then we get the actual ID, which is 4. So now it works. And now this is the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and make sure to subscribe if you want to see me continue this project. And I will see you in the next one.